wearing ACDC, so you know that it's Thursday night. It's the red zone. You know what? Football season's almost over, but not scoring touchdowns on knowledge. Josh Tawad, proud principal of Memorial Pathway Academy in Garland ISD, Garland, USA. Home of the Jaguars here tonight with a bunch of knowledge here. Throwing my finger all the way around throughout the United States because you know what? We all need to bring something to the table. All educators get this free PD at your fingertips, and we need to make sure that we go stronger together because it doesn't matter where you're at, whether you are in Alaska or in Hawaii, whether you're in Maine or Florida or anywhere in the 48 middle, we're all on the same mission. We're all on the same mission of educating the future of the United States, our hijos, our children, making sure that we're the best version by sharing these ideas tonight. And I kick it over up there above me to our host, Dean Packard.
Well, one of the hosts here tonight, Josh. Always great job. You know what? Unlock the Middle was created a long time ago just to bring everybody a little bit of information to become a little bit better each time we come to this table. So we're really excited tonight about the cast that we have with us. Again, my name is Dean Packard. I'm the principal of Charlton Middle School in Charlton, Massachusetts. And we're on episode like about maybe 450 right now, Josh. So we've had a really good run with a lot of great people on. And I'll tell you what, tonight's going to be no different than any other night that we've had before. So why don't we go around the table? Let's start off with Alan, and we'll go right around. Alan, just where you're from and what you do.
Alan Hudson III. I'm the principal at Glen Cove High School and actually reside in Glen Cove and graduated from the high school I'm the principal in.
Nice. Welcome to the table, Glenn.
Hi, everybody. I'm Glenn Nathan. I am an assistant superintendent in El Paso, Texas, in El Paso Independent School District.
Welcome to the table, Glenn. Bobby.
My name is Bobby Policino. I work at a K-12 independent school outside of Washington, D.C. in Montgomery County, Maryland, and I'm head of the upper school.
Again, welcome. Thank you very much. And Stephen.
I'm Stephen Olivas. I'm out in El Paso, Texas, in the Clint School District as an assistant principal at Desert Hills Elementary School.
Oh, welcome to the table, guys. We have a great mix from around the country, and it's going to be a real interesting conversation. Josh, kick it back to you.
So, gentlemen, thank you for being here tonight. And I think the most crucial part whenever we go to a conference or we have professional development at our service centers or whatever it is, that our presenters, our guests, bring the street cred. You know what I'm talking about. When you're sitting in front of somebody, you better have the street cred for me to be listening to you. Because you know what? That's what our team members do to us, right? Do you bring the street cred to where I follow your vision? So let us know tonight. Let us know your origin story. Just like the Marvel Universe, let us know where you started from, how you progressed, were you a teacher, coach? You might have been the custodian and became the principal. I've heard that a lot. So let us know your origin story that got you into education up until your current position. Alan, talk to us.
All right. So again, Alan Hudson III. So I started off. I got to say, my goal wasn't to go into education. I wanted to become a lawyer. My parents kind of frowned upon it. My dad actually at that time said, well, if you're going to become a teacher, you need to become like that Rudy Crew guy when Rudy Crew was the chancellor of New York City. But, I just had a passion to work with children. And so I ended up while I was in college, I worked as a youth worker at the Boys and Girls Club, fell in love with the fact of helping children. Really making an impact on them rather than being an attorney sitting in the courtroom and things like that. And read a book called Law versus Life. It changed my life, and just kind of sent me in that direction to work with children. From there, I went work for the New York City Board of Education at IS 59 in Queens. It was a gifted and talented school. Had some great experiences there. Left there, ended up going to Walt Whitman High School. I was called what you called a student support advisor. Kind of a fancy name for a dean of student. I was kind of like a ombudsman, troubleshooter. I had a young guy running the hallways, kind of, at times kind of be the boogeyman, be respectfully the boogeyman, develop relationships with kids and try to just kind of empower them, encourage them, and get them to go to class and do well. From there, I ended up going to Baldwin Senior High School, and I was an administrative dean there, and kind of did the same thing. I was, actually, I gotta say, I was. I was part basketball coach. I was the breakdancing advisor. So we used to battle and breakdance against a lot of different high schools. I probably lost my hair spinning on my head as a kid, bringing out my cardboard box and my boom box. So, I still got a passion for breakdancing, even though I'm old, I still like to try to do it. From there, left Baldwin and actually had an opportunity to actually come back to the high school that I graduated from. Remember, I was sitting in my office as a dean, enjoyed my time there. My former football coach, who was the principal at the time, contacted me and said, "Hey, listen, and I was his quarterback. He said, "Hey, quarterback, I got an opportunity for you to come back to Glen Cove High School. Would you like to interview for a position here?" I said, "Absolutely." From there, fast forward, ended up getting the job, came here. I was a assistant principal here for 16 years. The job was offered to me 7 years ago. I decided to turn it around because I was big into sports. My daughters, my sons in the AAU circuit, decided not to take the position at that point because and obviously in my first year now, realizing how much work it probably was a smart move. Ended up now, this is my first year as principal here at Glen Cove High School. Finally made that move from AP, and a lot of work, but I'm loving it.
I'm still stuck in the 1980s with the boombox, man. I'm telling you right now, it almost made me smile.
Yeah. No, I had the cardboard and everything,
My assistant principal would love that. He was, never mind, parachute pants and everything. Let's go.
Yeah,
Let's go.
There you
Let's
go.
go.
Yeah.
Beautiful stories, man. That's why we love these stories. Awesome. Steven, talk to us.
Stephen Olivas. So, my journey began as a special education teacher out at Sunridge Middle School in El Paso, Texas, where I did resource, which was what it was called back then, and co-teach, and all grade levels, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade math, and so that was my passion. Just working with our special needs population, helping our kiddos grow. And went back for my master's and moved up to the district service center as a instructional coach for special education. Still my passion was always special education, so that was really nice because I was able to oversee multiple campuses for the program for children with disabilities, and so that was really, really fun in the Socorro district. Then I got an opportunity to be an assistant principal at Fabens Elementary School out in Fabens ISD, a small district but beautiful district. So did that. It was very fun. Loved it. Loved working with our younger children there. And then an opportunity came up, which I took out in Midland, Texas, as an assistant principal at a 9th grade center. Which is only 9th graders and very challenging, but I love the experience out there in Midland, the people. And so, worked as an assistant principal in that capacity there and got a really good opportunity to move up to the service center as well in Midland as a supervisor for special services, overseeing all the campuses that had special services with life skills type classrooms. And then recently, December 19th, my daughter was born, and super excited about that. She's the only little girl in our family, so took that chance and was able to get back to El Paso in the Clint School District as an assistant principal at Desert Hills. And so I'm excited. We're going to be close to family. My dad will be able to see the grandkids, and just looking forward to it. I actually start my first day in Clint on Wednesday. So super excited, moving from Midland out to El Paso back again. So really good stuff.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Family first. Always, always. Bobby, talk to us.
Yeah, so had no plans to go into education. Did not want to be a lawyer, Alan, but didn't want to be a teacher either. So I graduated from college having played the cross, thought maybe I would get into coaching college lacrosse. Well, I figured out exactly what I wanted to do. I got a job at the University of Delaware, got an apartment, and a week later I got a phone call from the older brother, one of my college teammates, saying, "Hey, we need a biology teacher. This guy just walked out on us. I know you majored in bio. What do you think?" And so I talked to the head coach at Delaware, and he said, "Go interview. If you take the job, check it out. Come back in a year. If you don't like it, I'll hold the job for you here. And if you like it, good luck." Which was very kind and supportive of him. I spent, I don't even think it was a week in the classroom and realized it's what I wanted to do. Just really enjoyed the opportunity. I coached soccer, I coached basketball, I coached lacrosse. I was teaching 9th grade biology, which is really a class that sparked my interest when I was in high school and it's what made me want to major in biology. So that was something I really enjoyed. So I spent 4 years in that school in Virginia. It was outside of Williamsburg, and then started looking for opportunities in the DMV. A lot of my teammates and friends from college were in Annapolis, Baltimore, DC, Northern Virginia. So just started looking at schools and opportunities up this way. And I started at Bullis, where I am still, in 2003. Took a job teaching, coaching soccer and lacrosse, and then had an opportunity to be a grade level dean, had an opportunity to be a dean of students, assistant principal, and then I'm in the role that I am now. And this is my 9th year in this role here. So
Thank you for sharing. And in his book, make sure you check out his book. The lacrosse stories are awesome. From a Hispanic that doesn't play or ever seen lacrosse, great stories, Bobby. Thank you. Glenn, talk to us.
Well, how you guys doing? I have a story kind of similar to Alan and Bobby's. I had zero intention or desire to go into education. I was a pre-med student. I have a minor in biology, a minor in chemistry. I have a major in health economics. I was not going the educational route. I was going to go to medical school. I took my MCAT. But when I did that, I was tired. I was worn out from school, funny enough. And I said, I'm gonna work a year and submit my applications for medical school, and that's going to be my path. That 1 year while I'm working, pay off some of my student loans. And so I applied for 3 jobs. I applied for at a job with a bank as an economist. I applied at a life insurance company being an analyst, and then a friend of mine who was an assistant principal at the time pushed me hard to apply for a teaching position at a high school. And I thought that was the dumbest thing I'd ever heard. I was like, why would you want me to be a teacher? I said, I don't know anything about teaching. I said, I'm going to medical school. And she said, you've been making money as a tutor in college. That's your side hustle. You go and you work with people and you found ways to make connections with people. You're a teacher. You're an educator. You just haven't accepted that. And the sooner that you do, the sooner you're going to find happiness in life. And I thought, again, this is the dumbest thing, but what the hell, why not? I need a job for 1 year. So I went ahead and applied. I got offered all 3 jobs. And I said, well, who pays me the best? Where am I going to make the most money for this 1 year? The economist in me said, well, let's look at the number of hours that I'm going to work, the number of days that I'm going to be contracted, and the amount I'm going to get paid. And actually teaching was the best. That's what surfaced to number 1. And I got offered a job teaching. I was coaching right away, and I loved what I was doing. I woke up every day thinking, this is criminal that people are paying me to go to school and talk about economics, talk about history, coach some kids in basketball, do some football coaching, some track. And I get to take kids out of town and go learn about these beautiful sports, have experiences, eating at restaurants that they would never have had experiences at because of the schools. I loved what I was doing. And I said, well, I'm going to do this 1 more year. Well, before you know it, 5 years have come and gone, and I got asked to be an instructional coach. And I took on that opportunity with some excitement, but funny the way life works. I said, I'm going to try this instructional coach thing for a little bit, but I don't want admin. That's not my role. I'm not an administrator. I'm going to be a head coach. That's my goal. I'm a head coach, and maybe when I'm old and maybe I'm an athletic director at some point. No. So I took on that instructional coach role, got some administrative opportunities, moved on to become a consultant, a leadership and accountability consultant at the Regional Service Center. I've done school improvement work at the state level with low performing schools, help schools that were actually identified for closure come out of those improvement sanction levels. Most recently, I've been a superintendent in a small rural school district. That's a whole new experience when you've come from large school districts, working at a service center in a large city like El Paso, Texas is, to then going into a small school, a K-12 school district of 125 students total, K-12. Totally different experience after having been starting my teaching career at a high school of almost 3,000 students. So I've had that broad experience, and then an opportunity came my way to bring me back home to El Paso and take on the role of assistant superintendent for student services in El Paso ISD, which is the largest school district in El Paso. We have almost 51,000 students total in our school district right now. And so I get to oversee athletics, fine arts, student and parent services, attendance, truancy, and retention. And it's really putting together the things that I love the most, which is working with kids and helping find ways for our students to be successful through those adult connections. So that's my story.
As I sit back and listen to you guys, you all have different access points to being who you are in education. It's sort of like when we start talking to teachers about access to learning for all kids and removing barriers. You guys, you went through your own barriers, got where you needed to be, and still are excelling really well to make a difference in your learning communities where you are. So kudos to all of you, and great stories across the board. So again, we all have had that one individual who kind of inspired us. And what I want you to do is think about this for about a minute and a half or so. Talk about the individual who gave you your little, call it that momentum gusto to kind of push you where you're heading, and what it meant to you to be able to get that type of motivation from somebody. Bobby, why don't you start off?
That was a quick minute there, Dean.
Yeah.
Shot clock went fast.
It did.
I would say, so I grew up in upstate New York, outside of Albany, New York, and went to a large public school. And for us, athletics was a big part of growing up for my brother and me. And so we had a lacrosse coach who's also coached football as well. He was a special ed teacher, Pat Gunner. And he had been one of the winningest lacrosse coaches in the state of New Jersey, head coach at Summit, New Jersey, left there and had relocated up to Albany. And when he was there, he decided to take on this very different role in special ed, was working with middle school kids, modified football, lacrosse, etc. But just was a hard charging, high expectation, high driving guy who recognized he could do more with this group of kids at a younger age and do more to help advance kids than maybe that, having that head coach title, that so many people are aspiring for as they go through their careers or, want to be in charge. And I think he just set that tone for me of, regardless of what role you have, just work to get better, strive every day for that and continuous improvement. It doesn't matter who you're working with, what age they are, what skills they have, you're just going to help them get better every day. And I think that's something that really resonated with me all the way through high school and college and still does today.
My takeaway from that is continuous improvement, and that can be used across all platforms in the field of education and probably in any workforce anywhere out there. So thank you, Bobby. Appreciate that. That was definitely within the shot clock time period. So well done. Well done. Didn't even have to go like this. Here we go. Violation. Steven, you're up.
For me, that would have to be my father. He was a principal in the Socorro School District, and in its infancy, when that district first started out with only a high school, middle school, and junior high back then. And so he started his career there. He was an administrator. He was a principal. And he went on to be a director in the human resource department out there in Socorro. But really, he set the bar really high for me. And I'm still trying to reach that bar, nowhere near there. But my dad, he instilled that, that educational pathway, and I'm just trying to follow in his footsteps and make him proud.
I love that. That's one that's going to be taken home. There's no doubt about that. Glenn, you're up.
I'm kind of fortunate because I've had a lot of just great people that I've had the opportunity to learn and grow with. Definitely my mom. She's a 30-year teaching educator who recently retired right after the pandemic. And funny enough, she encouraged me not to be an educator. But once she saw what I was doing, she really pushed me and encouraged me and supported me in that journey. But professionally, really, Miss Josh, you'll remember this one, Patty Cuevas. Patty Cuevas was an assistant principal when I was an early young teacher, and she just really encouraged me to take chances, pushed me out of my comfort zone, and always supported whatever experience I was going through, allowed me the safe space to make mistakes, and Lord knows I made them. I think back on some of the mistakes I made, and I'm like, wow, thank God I made them way back then and not right now. But encourage me to learn and grow, and then continue to push me into those leadership roles, because she saw something in me, and I wouldn't be where I'm at today without her.
Great story. Alan.
So Kind of like Glenn, I've been fortunate to have a lot of people who mentored me throughout the years, but I would have to say a teacher, going back to sixth grade, I had a teacher by the name of Mr. Chopard, big burly guy, humorous English teacher, super smart, football coach. And, as like Glenn had said, he saw something in me in sixth grade. It was, back then where, you had what you wanted to call, whatever you wanted to call it at that point, tracking. I had come from the elementary school, ended up going to our sixth grade school, and I was kind of placed in one of the lower tracks. And you kind of you're looking at a person right now. Mom completed her GED at an older age. Dad probably got to about 7th or 8th grade, and that was it. So education was stressed, but no one had gone to college. Well, Mr. Chopard kind of came out of nowhere, and he just walked in after about 2 weeks and having me in his class. He said, "Hey, listen, you come here for a second." So at first I thought I was in trouble. He was the guy that, you thought you were in trouble, and he just changed the trajectory of my life simply because he moved me up in the ranks of the classes. He moved me from group 3 to group 1 within about a week because, he believed and saw something in me that I could aspire to do better than where I had been placed. Unfortunately, he just passed away, but numerous times during graduation speeches, I acknowledge that man as much as possible because, I think about, I had a lot of people who played a part in where I am today, but he definitely, as a 12-year-old, made an impact on me. And, it kind of speaks to what my philosophy is, that it only takes one educator to make an impact on the life of a child.
You're absolutely correct. You never know how you're going to affect somebody by how you speak to them or what doors you open for them. So great stuff right there. Josh.
Last time, January, we're readjusting our game plan. We already went through the first semester, and I don't know, we're still building that airplane up in the air right now as it's flying. We're adjusting to the after effects of what we faced a couple of years ago. What does changing the game plan in January, from what you learned from the first semester, what does that look like to you right now, Bobby?
I appreciate, Josh, you bringing up sort of what we came out of, because I think there are so many people that are ready to fast forward and look past that and move beyond it, and not recognize that there are still people struggling with what happened in the last 2.5 years, and recognizing just that education is different than when it was before, February, March of 2020. And so what does that mean for us around support for our faculty and making sure that they feel supported, and how much we're asking of them when their colleagues are out? What are we asking of our students? What gaps still exist from the years? And I think there was a desire from a lot of people coming into this school year to say, okay, last year was a struggle, but this year is going to be fine. And I think we found out through that first part of the year that everything's not fine for everybody. So for us, it's definitely saying, okay, what are we taking away from the student experience, from the faculty experience? How are we supporting them? What are we going to do to make sure that we are thinking about the whole child, the whole faculty, teacher, the mentor, and what are we doing to support them and mental health and wellness and all of those pieces, and saying that there may be days we need to take the foot off the gas a little bit and really think about, what people need in the long term. And hopefully, that's something that many of us will be doing, because it's not going to get easier. And I think we have to acknowledge that, but keep supporting people, and keep focusing on that improvement that Dean mentioned, and making sure that that's where we can help each other out.
Awesome. Thank you very much. From the upper stands, like Darren Papard always talks about, upper bleachers, big picture, Glenn, what does it look like?
You know what? It's knowing that education has permanently been altered. The landscape of education has permanently changed. And while there's been many negatives associated with what we just went through, there's some real positives that we need to key in on. One of those is embracing the value and the use of instructional technology. If we think about how this pandemic just catapulted everybody forward and utilizing it. I mean, how many times were we in classrooms and talking to teachers about how technology could enhance their quality lessons, and talking to our principals and assistant principals about what technology could afford some of these struggling learners in terms of different media and modalities. But there was that resistance, there was that reluctance, there was funding issues, when we thought about how to get students devices and internet access and connectivity. And look at where we're at today. I mean, the number of kids that now have high-speed internet access, the number of kids that have a device in their hands, and what they're able to do with that. I mean, information is really at their fingertips. But then that's created a whole set of other unintended consequences, because now, we got to think about, plagiarism. We got to think about appropriate use of technology. We got to think about how we're going to get kids back in the classroom. They can't just sit at home. That sitting at home has had negative effects on their socialization. And we see that as they're coming back into the schools, the problems with attendance, problems with bullying, all of those discipline incidents. So when we stop and think about where we're at on the halftime level, what I really see right now, what I've been really focusing in on, is that continuous professional development to support the whole child. We have to meet, kids' basic needs. They're going to come into schools because they are craving and needing that socialization, that interaction as part of the academic experience. We can't think about this in old terms. School is just for education. That's true. That's why school districts were established. But it's more than that. It's the whole child that needs to be addressed. It's those things that are going to develop the leaders of tomorrow. It's those things that are going to ensure that kids walking out of our educational systems are ready for the challenges that they're facing.
Thank you. Hey, Stephen, before you left Midland, what did change look like?
So, before I left out there, change was really looking at how are we going to support our scholars in, that positive behavioral supports, really, that PBIS, how we're going to support them in a positive manner, because, coming back from, where we're at a couple of years ago, there's a lot of deficits, right? A lot of deficits in socialization, on how to work well with each other, how to build relationships. So it was two parts, really. We're looking at how are teachers going to build relationships with students, and how are students working together with their peers, and so it was those kind of things to where we're trying to merge them to build those strong relationships. We're really focusing on positive relationships, meaningful relationships, because students are going to work for their teachers. They're going to work with their peers if they can feel that it's a meaningful, positive, and genuine relationships, that the teachers really truly care for them and have the heart to work with them. And so it was really that part, right? Bringing the heart to the landscape that we're working with, coming back to full-time inclusion in the classrooms, and even when we're looking at our special needs scholars, they need that added support, because just, looking at IEPs and behavior plans, those kind of things, we're really trying to tie that in and build those kiddos up. So that's where we're at out there in Midland.
Thanks, Stephen. And just down the line, we already have a book to show that only deals with SPED needs and SPED backgrounds, because that's a thing that we never really target on podcasts. And because we had one earlier about EL students, EB students, now we're going to address SPED down in a couple of weeks. So hopefully you could join us for that show. Alan, talk to us. What does it look like up there in your area?
So change with us is what we're going to continue. What we started in the first half. The first half of the year. We're going to start the year off. We go back Monday, first day of the second half of the school year. Grade level assemblies, but just being positive. Like Stephen, Glenn, and everyone has said. Just being positive, because there is no new normal, as we know. I don't even know what the word normal at this point means. And a lot of us know we're dealing with students who, social emotionally are possibly a year and a half to 2 years behind. I see a lot of our seniors here, they act more and behave more like 10th graders, because they miss so much schooling. But, it's just about building over those relationships with them, building the administration, building relationships, and continuing to build in relationships with the teachers, because even them, I do like a morning announcement, and the morning announcement is not just for the students, it's for the teachers. So the teachers are like, hey, you know what? I guess I am awesome, because I think everyone needs some sort of positive, affirmation, especially because us as educators, I think the world witnessed how important we are to this world in the pandemic. But it's about building those relationships, getting those kids, taking responsibility, attending extra curricular activities. You might be that only parent, that only adult in that child's life that ever shows up to a game, and the importance of doing that. And we're just trying to move in that positive direction and touch the lives of all of our students.
A profound educator on this call once said, students don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that person is not buying his clothes at Montgomery Ward or buying his videos at Blockbuster. Am I correct? Josh Tovar? Okay. So that goes back to that Maslow before Bloom's, that relationships are all matter. That's what we do in this business, and that's what we serve, and that's why we serve. So really important stuff. Hey, I'm going to shift gears and go in a different direction. I'm going to ask you guys each, what do you look for in a leader within a district? What are some of the key qualities that you really, the people that either you work with or work for or, collaboratively or someone above you, what is it that makes you want to do that extra job where you're working now? And let's start off with this one with Glenn first, from 20,000 feet.
It starts off with passion and commitment to kids. That's the business that we're in. It's the kid business. So you have to have that passion and commitment to students. You have to have a belief, truly believe that all students will succeed. Not that they can succeed, that they will succeed, because if not, then what are we doing? What was the point of all our hard work? And then looking for initiative. Those are those key drivers for me, because knowledge, certain skill sets, those can be honed, those can be built, those can be acquired over time. But that passion, that belief, and that initiative, that willingness to step in and go that extra mile, and embrace, to some degree, embrace the suck. It's not always a glamorous job. It's not always just fun and games and let me put on the suit and tie and walk around with a radio and it looks so fun and easy. It's a lot more than that. When you have a parent in your office screaming at you, cussing you out, when you've got the call from the board members, asking what the heck is your problem? What are you thinking? Why is this occurring? Why didn't you do this for my child? Do you know how innocent my child is? When you're going through all of that, those are things that you can't prepare for. You don't know it until you experience it. But if you believe in kids, if you have that passion and you're willing to learn, you're willing to take that initiative on to work with every situation that comes about, you're going to be successful. And those are the people that I want on my team.
Glenn, take it one step further. And again, just because you're at that 20,000 foot mark, how do you empower the people below you to think that way?
It starts by sharing that belief in them and letting them know, look, I'm here to support you. You have a lot of answers. We together don't know the answers to every situation. We cannot, there's not a playbook that I could give any aspiring leader, any current leader that answers every scenario and situation that's going to come about. But what we can do is say, based off of our collective experiences, can we apply our knowledge? Can we apply our experiences in the unknown? If we can do that, let's work together and we're going to find the answers. And that's what we do. That's what I do with my teams all the time. I give them those opportunities to try and find solutions. All right, well, what are you thinking? Based off of this situation, where do you want to move with this problem? How are we going to work with this? Because we know, we have an upset parent, we have a student who's not succeeding. And at the end of the day, what are we going to do? Because we can point the finger in a million different directions, but are we willing to point it at ourselves first and do everything in our power?
Building capacity. It doesn't stop no matter where you're at. Great stuff right there. Stephen, ground zero, Stephen, ground zero. This is what I like. Assistant principals in the trenches.
Yep. So it's that belief in students, right? Every decision is made to better a child's life. We're here in the business of taking care of children. And, those are the things that I really look for. You're student driven. You're there for kids. You're making decisions to improve children's lives, not test scores, improve children's overall life, overall welfare, overall, emotional state. And those kind of things are essential. That's foundational, really. If you're making good decisions for children, the best decisions for children, that's what it's all about. And then it comes down to trust, right? People who work hard for leaders, work hard for them because they can trust them. They work hard for those, they go that extra mile for leaders who they can trust because they know at the end of the day, this administrator, this supervisor, this director is there and I can trust him. I can trust that I can work with them and I can make decisions to better the lives of our children. But it's that trust, right? If our teachers can trust our administrators, they're going to go that extra mile for us. If they truly can trust us and know that we're there to take care of them, to make sure that we're helping them grow as instructional leaders, as teachers, as everyone from custodians, that trust is essential. So trust is a big thing.
Great stuff right there, Bobby.
I would pick up where Glenn was around the initiative piece. I think it's important that you have people that are going to put themselves out there, that are going to look to solve problems and aren't always going to be coming to you with the problems for you to solve, because then why did you put them in that position? So do they have that initiative? Do they have the understanding of what is best for the child in that moment? Even that, though that may be a difficult answer to give to a parent or to the child, or sometimes to the faculty member who disagrees with you in that regard. So how are you able to do that and have that ability to sort of live in the gray, right? It's real easy to sit in the cheap seats in the bleachers, right? And question some of the play calling we saw last weekend by Ken Dorsey and the Buffalo Bills as they got shellacked by the Bengals. It's so easy to do that, but you have to be able to have that. And then the other piece, I think, as Glenn talked about, the challenges with this job is, does the person have resiliency? Because they're going to have to be able to come back and work for those students. And part of that resiliency comes from understanding why you're in this profession, who you're there for. And that's for the kids every day. It's to provide them with opportunities. It's to give them support. And if you know that, you believe in that, then you can bring that resiliency every day to come and do the job. If you're not sure why you're in it and you're not resilient, you're not going to be able to give the kids what they need every day. And I think as a leader, all that school leaders have gone through in the past few years, without resiliency, you're not still in that job. And so it's important that people can bring that to the table when they take on these responsibilities.
Well said. Absolutely. Alan.
I'll say, definitely piggybacking on what Bobby and Glenn was saying, definitely a person with initiative. A lot of times I throw out the phrase, we're looking for solutions, not excuses. A person would taking the initiative to kind of figure out some things. They may come and touch base with you, always throwing some ideas out there to you. But also a person who understands that if it's not, if you reduce a school and remove the students, you're pretty much in a warehouse, a warehouse with adults, and those adults don't have a purpose here unless those students are in that building. So a person who also, and like you said, like even in those difficult situations, here on the ground floor, being a principal AP, having those difficult conversations and having to make those difficult decisions when it comes to a student that might not be popular, but you as the administrator know different nuances about his or her life, and being able to be courageous enough to make that decision and make the decision based on the child's life and how it will impact him or her. I kind of also would like, I kind of look for someone who's going to think like a parent, is how would you want that person to be? How would you want your child to be dealt with in that situation? I kind of stress that with my APs, if you always do that and think about it as if that's your child, I think you never go wrong, So that's the kind of person that I'm always looking for on the leadership team.
Josh.
So, gentlemen, we've talked about, a lot of you have mentioned PD right now, post or past situation. So podcast, professional development conferences, I think those are crucial things for our team members and ourselves, the mirror, ourselves. It's important. So what do you guys feel about podcasts, any kind of conferences that you feel are awesome for people to attend? Because you know what? You have a platform that maybe someone in Iowa is going to listen to your advice. Bobby, talk about podcasts, about conferences you could recommend.
Yeah, I think, podcasts are a great way for us to be able to access information. I get to do most of my podcasting in the summer. Now, I drive all three of my kids to and from school, so they're not fans of my podcast choices. But I would absolutely recommend, finding ones that are not the ones that maybe you're most comfortable are going to feed into what you want to hear, right? We have to avoid the echo chamber. So is there an area you need to grow? I was very fortunate to contribute to Lainey Rowell's book, Evolving with Gratitude, and listen to Lainey's podcast. And gratitude was not a big part of my life 4 or 5 years ago. It's something that I really started to build into a practice. So if that's an area of growth for you, that's a great podcast, to consider listening to. I think Darren Pepper does a great job with his Road to Awesome team, and Darren's podcast is a great one to listen to. And again, I think there's so many different options to have. Conference wise, I would say, there's this great group, Leadership and Design. They work with educators all across the country. They're based out of California. They have conferences throughout the year. I did a year fellowship with them. They do a really good job of helping people grow into roles as leaders, or if you are a leader, helping to sort of reset your approach and how you're working with your team. So that's Leadership and Design. That's a group I would certainly recommend checking out for conference.
Glenn.
I think, of course, any type of professional development is good, but I think it's all about how you build a network to expand your horizons, to broaden you to things that you wouldn't know to look for, right? Just like we're doing right now. For me, being a part of here in Texas, part of the Texas Association of School Administrators, Texas Association of School Boards, Texas Association of Latino Administrators and Superintendents. Those are all key networking groups, professional organizations that have opened me up to different professional development conferences, going out to, some of the national school improvement conferences. I really do like to focus in on school improvement, because when we think about how to improve a low performing school, it's not a magic bullet. I mean, Josh, I can give you magic bullets to fix it from one year to the next, but in 2 years, you'll be right back in the gutters. So you have to really think about what are those long-term sustainable items. And so you got to look at leadership. You got to look at culture. You got to look at hiring practices. You got to look at, your curriculum approaches. And so when we're doing that's where I've always found a lot of value in the school improvement areas, because I get all of those things that are in need. And the other one has been Raise Your Hand Texas. And I know I'm mentioning a lot of Texas ones, but the TASA connects to AASA, and then Raise Your Hand Texas connects to Harvard School of Education. So those are some key ones for me.
Stephen.
And looking at professional development at the campus level, I really think a lot of times surveying the campus, finding out what our teachers are needing support in is a really good way to begin, but really like tailoring the professional development to the campus, because some campuses may not need help with math instruction, reading, language arts curriculum. Some may need support with special education, those kind of things. So really looking at the data and tailoring it to what the teachers need is essential, because the last thing you want is a teacher sitting in a professional development that they are very good at, don't need any support in, and aren't really focused. So if you want to get the most bang for your buck, really making sure that it's meaningful and the teachers are getting something out of it. And I really like ISTE. ISTE is great. We're looking at technology. ISTE's, it's just growing and expanding leaps and bounds. So for me, I've got a lot of great things out of ISTE. So that's just what I always promote.
And Phil Hudson the third.
All right. Okay. So I know a great show that, I've learned a lot of information from. It's called Unlock the Middle. So kind of ventured on there a couple of years, a while back, got some great information. Kind of figured out, especially in my first year as a principal, I'm like, wow, I need a lot, it's, what I experienced was, and being an assistant principal for 16 years, actually being under 3 or 4 different principals, you kind of think what the principalship is. It's not until you sit in this seat that you realize, wow, this is a different world. So, I went out and started looking around and, looked at Unlock the Middle. From there, Principal Kafele, his assistant principal, workshops have been great. A lot of information, a lot of practical information that you can use. And then, I just think that it was that's exactly what I needed. I want to piggyback on what Steven said. One of the things we want to focus on is, teachers don't want to sit in PD that they don't need. So I think the key thing is assessing what their needs are. What we do is assess what some of the students, when you start to look at the data and you go, here's maybe where some of the students are failing. Maybe it's the engagement. So we're going to start in the second part of the year, starting student engagement. So we did a quick activity, surveyed the teachers, got them to move around a little bit in the faculty room, and they kind of identified, 42 different strategies that they use for engagement. So as a former teacher, and as all of us were, now you walk away from your PD with something in your toolkit immediately. So that's what I'm thinking where we're moving for this second half of the year.
Lots of great things here, guys, being discussed. So let's kind of close this out with this. Like closing advice, what you would say to some people getting ready to look into make that change from the teaching aspect, the classroom management, to a building-based management, or building-based management to a superintendent level. What would you tell them? What type of advice would you give to them? And after you're done with that, how can people connect with you personally? So why don't we first start off with Glenn?
I think the most important thing at this point that I can offer is really focusing on what is integrity. What does it mean to act with integrity? What does integrity mean to you? If we think about it, how many times are we late to a meeting, on a phone call, answering emails, doing something other than that which we're supposed to be engaged fully in? With the integrity starts leading us into parallel processes, and what we're putting out is what we're going to get back. So I really have been thinking a lot about and focusing in a lot on my own personal integrity and how that impacts everything around me. Again, I've been doing a lot of work and thinking about how my actions are what I can control. And so by controlling me and focusing in there, that's going to help build this larger network of others doing the things that we need together to move this mountain that is the educational challenge in front of us. So if you're looking to make that next step, it's really about finding those core values and beliefs that are essential to what you believe in terms of education. I think if you're really focusing on integrity, it's going to lead you down to the road of accountability, and then that commitment to success, rapport with others, and all of those are going to be the skill sets that you need to help move large groups of individuals in any type of school system. If anybody ever wants to connect, at BU_Glenn, GLENN, always ready to talk. You can also give me a call. I'll give you my cell phone number, 915-269-3350. Call me. I want to talk. I want to learn. I want to connect. I want to I want to share in all of the learning that we have to offer with one another.
Simple and succinct. Thank you very much, Glenn. Appreciate that so much. Steven.
I think it's really that dedication to the craft is essential for any incoming administrator aspiring to get into that level in education, really having that dedication, because it is not an easy job. I will never ever say that it's an easy job. It's not for the glory. It's you need to be dedicated, and you need to be there wholeheartedly for children. So that dedication is absolutely crucial. And just always remember, you need to be flexible. This is not an 8 to 5. It is, it's all hours of the day. At any time, an attorney could be calling you, a principal, a parent, some situation happened at the campus. So be flexible, be dedicated. And for me, you can always reach me here at Twitter at Steven_Clint ISD. And my cell phone is area code 915-626-8939.
That's commitment, giving out direct numbers to connect with. So thank you very much. Always. Bobby, you're up.
I think about Marshall Goldsmith's quote of "What got you here won't get you there," and I think Alan touched on that. Right, sitting in that AP role for 16 years and thinking, "Okay, I know what to do when I get in the chair," and you find out you don't. So it's that continuous improvement, right? And saying, so if you have an idea of where you want to be, I think number one, you grow the role that you're in, right? You grow that, you become really strong in that field, so that when you do have a next opportunity, if it's there to be a leader in a different role, you know the steps it took to be successful in your current role, so you can start laying out that map. And along with that, Glenn mentioned core values in the book I released last month, Principled Leader. I talk about the importance of knowing your core values and what they are, because that's going to guide your decision making. And I talk about, for myself, integrity, discipline, and courage. And what does that look like every single day? And again, if I go back to what Alan shared when he had this opportunity and said where his family was clearly important to you, Alan. So you said, I'm not ready for this position right now because of what I'm doing. And I think knowing that sometimes people will jump into a role they're not ready for, they're not sure that they want, but they think they have to, and then they set themselves up to fail. And so really understanding who you are and where you are, and is this the right time for you? Because if it's not the right time for you, you can pass on. There'll be more opportunities. As long as you continue to push yourself, you grow and you develop, people will knock on the door again. So just know who you are, and be true to yourself.
True wisdom right there, Bobby.
And then contact at Bobby Policino Twitter. You can also find on my website, bobbypolicino.com. And I also have a newsletter you can subscribe to through that as well.
Great stuff right there. Thank you, Bobby. Alan, bring us home here.
So I think really knowing your why, knowing your core values, why a number of people had said to me, sometimes just because there's a ladder there doesn't mean you need to climb it. So the importance of knowing why you want to climb that ladder, and do you want to climb that ladder, and knowing that once you do climb that ladder, 9 times out of 10 you've been very successful at this level. You climb that level, you now have to make sure that you're going to be successful there. And kind of like as Bobby said, just knowing your core values, because this is a tough job. It's a wonderful job. It's a fulfilling job. I think it's the noblest profession we can do. We create every other profession in the world, but it is tough, And I'm a spiritual person, so one of the things I pray, to whoever you believe, empower other leaders, and just be a servant leader. Know that you are, despite your title. Don't get caught up in titles. Despite whoever you are. In your grassroots, you're an educator touching the lives of children, and be willing to roll up your sleeves and jump in. Treat everyone, treat the custodian like you would treat your superintendent, and I think that right there is what we do and strive to instill in our students.
A to Z, perfectly said.
Sure. One quick thing, Dean. Alan, you inspired me to one last final thought. Never forget that we're always teaching. We entered this profession as teachers, sharing knowledge, sharing information, trying to inspire others and create some change. And as we move into those leadership roles, we're still teaching. It's just our learners got a little bit bigger.
Absolutely.
Josh,
I didn't say you can.
Alan, where can they get a hold of you?
Oh yeah, I got you, Josh. So they can reach me on Twitter. Let me get my handle here. My cell phone. I'm giving out my cell phone because listen, I want to build a network. I want to learn. First year.
8675309, right?
Yeah, there you go. All right. So, but they can reach me on Twitter at Glen Cove High School, GCHS, on Instagram as well. But definitely want to connect with great educators throughout the world and in the country. I kind of go from there.
Awesome. Hey, Bobby, you got your book up there?
I can, yeah.
Come on, Bobby, real quick. Come on, Bobby.
Throw it out there.
There you go. Awesome. Thank you
Leader.
for sharing. Later on, everybody, Bobby will be on our show for the flagship show. But you know what, Dean? Let me tell you one thing. I think that we scored another touchdown. It was another dive up the A gap. All this knowledge. Everybody from around the United States and around the world picking up from all of the parts of leadership. Assistant principal to up there with Glenn as the associate superintendent. But you know what? Our knowledge does not stop. It picks up this coming Sunday with the flagship show, 7 p.m. Dr. Carol Salva. She will be talking about her book with EBs, Emerging Bilinguals, and how we support them, making sure that we take time to break that and analyze, because we have all of these kids coming into the United States, going everywhere. So how are we helping those educators that do not know or were never taught in their college how to address students from Nicaragua, El Salvador, Vietnam, so on and so forth? And next Tuesday, Dean, Next Tuesday, we have our office hours. Office hours, 20-minute problem-solving show. Only 20 minutes with 4 of our guests ready to rock and roll. At what time, Dean Packard?
9 o'clock, Josh, Eastern Standard Time.
9 o'clock.
Yeah, we've changed it. We've changed the time zone so I can finish the game. Remember that, okay? I can't be running home in the fourth quarter. We got to make sure I finish my obligations first.
Thank you,
9
everyone.
o'clock Tuesday.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. Appreciate you. We'll see you at the flagship show. Thank you, gentlemen, for showing up and staying on the call. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Glenn. Thank you, Bobby, Stephen. Thank you very much, Josh, as always. Great to see all you guys here tonight. Remember, kids come first. Make it happen.